The black Mercedes SUV slowed to a crawl as Marcus Wellington approached the intersection near his mansion. Something caught his eye. Two small figures hunched over a dumpster behind the corner grocery store. Children, thin, desperate. His chest tightened with a familiar ache, the one he always felt when he saw poverty in his wealthy neighborhood. But then one of the children turned, and Marcus's world stopped. It was Emma, his daughter. Her blonde hair, once carefully braided every morning, now hung in tangled mats around her dirt-smeared face. She was reaching into a garbage bag, pulling out what looked like half-eaten bread. Marcus slammed on the brakes so hard the seatbelt cut into his chest. The coffee in his cup holder splattered across the leather interior. He didn't notice. His hands were shaking so violently he could barely unbuckle his seatbelt. The other child turned too. Ethan, his son, 7 years old, the same age as Emma. His twins, digging through garbage like street orphans. "No," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. "No, no, no." He burst from the car, leaving the door wide open, the engine still running. His $3,000 Italian shoes splashed through a puddle as he ran. The children didn't hear him at first. They were too focused on their grim task. Emma had found an apple with only one bite taken out of it. She was wiping it on her filthy dress, smiling at her brother like she'd discovered treasure. "Emma! Ethan!" Marcus's voice came out as a strangled shout. Both children spun around. The apple fell from Emma's hand. For a split second, Marcus saw something that broke him completely. Fear. His own children looked at him with pure terror, as if he were a stranger about to hurt them. Then recognition flooded their faces, and that fear transformed into something even worse. "Daddy?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Marcus dropped to his knees on the wet pavement, not caring about his custom suit. He opened his arms, and both children ran into them, their small bodies trembling. They smelled of garbage and sweat and something sour he couldn't identify. He pulled them closer, tears streaming down his face. "What happened?" he managed to ask. Why are you here? Where's Victoria?" Victoria, his wife of 18 months. The woman he'd married after his first wife, Sarah, had died of cancer 2 years ago. The woman who'd promised to love his children as her own. Ethan started crying, his thin shoulders shaking. Emma, always the braver twin, looked up at her father with hollow eyes that belonged on someone much older. "She said we were bad," Emma whispered. "She said bad children don't deserve to eat." "But wait, let me take you back to where this nightmare really began." 14 days earlier, Marcus had received the business call that would change everything. An opportunity in Singapore. A deal worth $30 million, but he needed to be there in person for 2 weeks. He'd hesitated. He'd never left the twins for that long since Sarah died, but Victoria had been so understanding, so supportive. "Darling, go," she'd said, stroking his cheek with perfectly manicured nails. "The children and I will be fine. We'll have a wonderful time together. I'll make sure they're well taken care of. This is your big opportunity. Don't let them hold you back." Something about those last words had made him pause. Don't let them hold you back, as if the children were weights, not treasures. But he'd dismissed it. Victoria had been nothing but kind to Emma and Ethan for 18 months. She'd come into their lives when they were drowning in grief, and she'd been a life raft, or so he'd thought. The morning he left, he'd hugged the twins extra long. Emma had clung to his neck. "Don't go, Daddy," she'd whispered. "Please don't go." "I'll be back before you know it, sweetheart," he'd promised. 2 weeks will fly by, and I'll call you every single day." "Promise?" Ethan had asked. Promise. He'd kept that promise, or rather he'd tried. He'd called every evening at 6 p.m. sharp, Singapore time, but Victoria always answered. The children were sleeping, she'd say, or doing homework, or taking a bath. Always something. He'd hear their voices sometimes in the background, but Victoria never put them on, and foolishly, trustingly, he hadn't pushed harder. "They're fine, Marcus," Victoria would assure him. "Just missing you, that's all. But we're managing beautifully. Focus on your deal." So he had, and the deal had closed 3 days early. He'd decided to surprise them, coming home 4 days before expected. He'd imagined their faces when he walked through the door. Emma's squeal of delight, Ethan's running leap into his arms. He'd never imagined this. Finding them like animals, scrounging for food and garbage. Now, kneeling on that filthy pavement, Marcus felt something dark and cold settle in his chest. Rage. Pure, crystallized rage. How long? He asked Emma quietly. How long has she not fed you? Emma and Ethan exchanged glances. Since you left, Ethan finally said. 14 days. His children hadn't eaten properly in 14 days. She gives us water, Emma added quickly, as if defending Victoria, and sometimes crackers, but only if we're really good, and we haven't been very good. What did you do? Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer would destroy him. I spilled juice on her white couch, Ethan said, his voice breaking. It was an accident, but she got really mad. She said accidents happen because we're careless and stupid. And I talked back to her, Emma whispered. She said Mom would be ashamed of us. I said that wasn't true, that Mom loved us, and she... Emma stopped, her lower lip trembling. She what, baby? She said Mom was dead and you would forget about us too eventually, that we were burdens, broken things from your old life, and then she locked the pantry and the refrigerator. Marcus's vision blurred, not from tears this time, but from pure fury. He stood up, lifting both children with him. They weighed almost nothing. These children who'd been healthy and vibrant 2 weeks ago now felt like birds in his arms. Get in the car, he said softly. Both of you. Are we in trouble? Ethan asked fearfully. Marcus's heart shattered again. No, son. You're not in trouble. You could never be in trouble. Not for surviving. Not for being hungry. He settled them in the back seat, buckled them in with shaking hands. Emma's fingers caught his wrist. Daddy? Victoria said, if we told you, you'd send us away to an orphanage. She said, you were tired of us. Marcus closed his eyes, took a breath, opened them. I will never ever send you away. You are my heart, my whole heart. Do you understand me? Both children nodded, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. The damage was already done. Victoria had spent 14 days poisoning their minds, breaking their spirits, starving their bodies. We're going home now, Marcus said, and Victoria is going to answer for this. The drive back to the mansion took 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Marcus's mind raced. How had he missed the signs? Had there been signs? He replayed every phone call, every video chat. Victoria had been so normal, so sweet, always smiling. The house had looked immaculate in the background. Of course it had, because she'd been keeping the children locked in their rooms. He pulled into the circular driveway. The mansion rose before them, all glass and stone, an expensive taste. His prison, he now realized. He'd built a palace and invited a monster to live in it. Stay in the car for just a moment, Marcus told the twins. He opened the glove compartment and pulled out his phone. He opened the recording app. He needed evidence, because he knew what was coming, and he needed to protect his children from her lies. Then he helped Emma and Ethan out. They walked to the front door together, the twins clinging to his hands. Marcus used his key. The door swung open, and there was Victoria. She was standing in the foyer, glass of wine in hand, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She looked perfect. Hair blown out, makeup flawless, nails done. She looked like she'd spent the 2 weeks at a spa. When she saw Marcus, her eyes widened, just for a second, then that perfect smile slid into place. Darling, you're home early. What a wonderful surprise. But her smile faltered when she saw the children, saw their filthy clothes, their gaunt faces, their haunted eyes. Marcus watched her brain work. He could almost see the calculations happening behind those cold blue eyes. How to spin this, how to explain, how to manipulate. Oh my God, she gasped, hand flying to her chest. What happened? Marcus, where did you find them? I've been looking everywhere. They ran away this morning and I've been worried sick. Emma's hand tightened in Marcus's. Ethan made a small sound, almost a whimper. Is that so? Marcus said quietly. His voice was calm, too calm. The calm before a storm. Yes, they've been so difficult while you were gone, acting out. And this morning they just vanished. I was about to call the police. Victoria's voice rose, taking on a frantic edge. She was good. He had to give her that. If he hadn't seen the children in that garbage, if he hadn't heard their stories, he might have believed her. Interesting, Marcus said. Because Emma and Ethan just told me you haven't fed them in 2 weeks. The mask slipped, just for a second, but Marcus saw it. Saw the flash of fury cross Victoria's face before she rearranged it into shock and hurt. That's absurd. Marcus, they're children. Children lie when they're upset. I've fed them 3 meals a day. Every day. I have receipts. Grocery bills. Then why? Marcus said, his voice dropping even lower. Did I find them digging through a dumpster? Why do they look like they've lost 10 pounds each? Why are they terrified of you? Victoria's hand shook, wine sloshing in the glass. She set it down on the marble table. Marcus, please, you have to understand. They've been testing me, pushing boundaries, grieving Sarah. I've tried so hard, but they hate me. They've always hated me. We don't hate you, Emma said suddenly, her small voice echoing in the cavernous foyer. We were scared of you. Victoria's eyes snapped to Emma. And there it was. The truth. Marcus saw pure hatred flash across his wife's face as she looked at his 7-year-old daughter. You little liar, Victoria hissed. The words hung in the air like poison. What did you just call my daughter? Marcus's voice was deadly quiet now. Victoria seemed to realize she'd made a mistake. She tried to recover. Marcus, I didn't mean she's been putting ideas in Ethan's head, turning him against me, making up these elaborate stories. Elaborate stories, Marcus repeated. Emma, tell me again. What did Victoria feed you this week? Emma's voice was steady now, stronger. Monday she gave us each 4 crackers and a glass of water. She said we didn't deserve more because Ethan broke your paperweight. I didn't mean to. Ethan burst out. It fell. Tuesday she didn't give us anything because Emma cried at bedtime. Emma continued. Wednesday, we got 2 crackers each. Thursday she forgot about us completely. Friday she left a peanut butter sandwich for us to share, but it was on the high shelf and we couldn't reach it. We tried to stand on a chair, but she came in and yelled at us for trying to steal food. That's not food, Victoria snapped. That was my lunch. The admission hung in the air. Marcus closed his eyes. There it was, the truth, slipping out in her anger. Your lunch, Marcus said softly, that you put on a shelf too high for 7-year-olds to reach. In their own home, where all the food is locked away. Victoria's face paled. She'd realized her mistake. The pantry and refrigerator are locked, Marcus continued. Emma mentioned that. Victoria, show me your keys. I don't have to show you anything. This is my house too. It's my house, Marcus corrected coldly. You signed a prenup. You own nothing here. Now show me your keys. With shaking hands, Victoria pulled a keyring from her robe pocket. Marcus took it. Sure enough, there were 2 new keys he didn't recognize. He walked to the kitchen, the children following close behind. Victoria stayed frozen in the foyer. The pantry had a new lock. One of the keys fit. Marcus opened the door. Inside was enough food to feed a family for months. Canned goods, pasta, rice, cereals, snacks, everything a child could want, all locked away. The refrigerator was the same. He opened it. Fresh fruits, vegetables, milk, juice, cheese, yogurt. The freezer was packed with ice cream, frozen meals, every comfort food imaginable. You kept them from all of this, Marcus said, his voice hollow. He turned to the twins. Go to your rooms. Pack a bag with your favorite things. We're leaving. Marcus, please, Victoria started. Do not speak. Marcus cut her off. Do not say another word to me. Go to your rooms, kids. Now. Emma and Ethan scurried away. Marcus heard their footsteps on the stairs. When they were gone, he turned back to Victoria. Why? He asked simply. Victoria's face hardened. The mask was fully gone now. You really want to know? Yes. Because they're not mine, she spat. Because every time I look at them, I see her. Sarah. Perfect. Dead Sarah. You talk about her constantly. They talk about her. This whole house is a shrine to a ghost. I was supposed to love them. They're reminders that I'm second choice, that I'm replacement. Marcus felt sick. You knew I had children when you married me. I thought they'd be different. I thought they'd be grateful. but they mope and cry and talk about their precious mommy. I got tired of it, so yes, I stopped feeding them. I wanted them to learn that they don't get to be ungrateful, that they don't get to make me feel like an outsider in my own home. This was never your home, Marcus said coldly. You were never their mother, and you will never see them again. Victoria laughed, a brittle, harsh sound. Do you think it's that easy? You think you can just throw me out? I'll call the police. I'll tell them you're making false accusations. It's my word against 2 children who are known to be traumatized and troubled. No, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. It's your word against this. He hit play on the recording. Victoria's voice filled the kitchen, clear as a bell. Because they're not mine. Because every time I look at them, I see her. The color drained from Victoria's face. You recorded me? Every word since I walked in that door, including you calling my daughter a liar, including you admitting to starving my children. I have all the evidence I need. But Victoria wasn't done yet. People like her never were. She changed tactics, her eyes filling with tears. Marcus, please. I was angry. I didn't mean those things. I love them. I've been trying so hard, but it's difficult. I've been struggling. Depression, anxiety. I need help, not punishment. Please, darling, we can go to therapy. We can fix this as a family. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and he wondered how he'd ever thought he loved this woman, how he'd ever let her near his children. Get out, he said. Marcus, get out of my house. Now, or I call the police and have you arrested for child abuse and neglect. You can't prove. He held up his phone, the recording. Victoria's face twisted with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. I'll take you for everything in the divorce. I'll destroy your reputation. I'll tell everyone you're an unfit father. Try, Marcus said. Please, try. Because I have 14 days of phone records showing I tried to speak to my children and you prevented it. I have the recording of your confession. I have 2 severely undernourished children who will tell their story to any judge or lawyer who asks, and I have more money than you could dream of to fight you in every court in this country. The moment stretched. Victoria seemed to realize she'd lost. Her face hardened into something ugly. Those children are damaged, she said coldly. Sarah ruined them with her softness. They're weak. They'll never be anything. And you? You're a fool for choosing them over me. Get out. Victoria grabbed her purse from the foyer table. She stopped at the door, turned back. You'll come crawling back, she said. When you realize how hard it is to raise broken children alone, when you can't handle their nightmares and their neediness, when you want a real partner, a real woman, not a replacement mommy for damaged goods. If you're not gone in 30 seconds, Marcus said, I'm calling 911. Victoria left. The door slammed behind her. Marcus stood in the sudden silence of his house. Then he heard it, crying, upstairs, both children sobbing. He took the stairs 2 at a time, found them in Emma's room, clinging to each other on her bed, surrounded by half-packed bags. It's okay, he said, gathering them both into his arms. She's gone. She's never coming back. You promise? Ethan whispered. I promise. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I left you with her. I'm sorry I didn't see what she was. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. You didn't know, Emma said, her voice muffled against his chest. She was nice when you were here. That doesn't matter. I should have known. I should have seen. But I promise you, I will never make that mistake again. I will never let anyone hurt you again. They stayed like that for a long time. Then Marcus said, let's go get some real food. What do you want? Anything? Ethan asked cautiously. Anything in the world. McDonald's, they said together. Marcus laughed through his tears. McDonald's it is, and then tomorrow we're going to see a doctor. Make sure you're both healthy, and then we're going to see someone who helps children talk about their feelings. A therapist? Emma asked. Yes, is that okay? Emma nodded. Mom used to say talking about feelings is brave. Your mom was right. Your mom was right about everything. They went to McDonald's. Marcus watched his children devour burgers and fries and chicken nuggets like they'd never seen food before. Other diners stared at the odd picture they made. A man in an expensive suit with 2 filthy children eating like they were starving. Because they were starving. And it was his fault. He'd chosen Victoria. He'd trusted her. He'd left his children with a monster. But never again. Over the next few days, Marcus learned the full extent of Victoria's abuse. The doctor found both children severely malnourished and dehydrated. Emma had an untreated ear infection. Ethan had bruises on his arms from where Victoria had grabbed him. The child psychologist, Dr. Martinez, explained that Victoria had been methodically breaking down the children's trust and self-worth. She was grooming them for long-term abuse, Dr. Martinez said during a private session. She started by isolating them emotionally from you during those phone calls. Then she escalated to food deprivation. If you hadn't come home early, Mr. Wellington, this would have gotten much worse. What would she have done? Based on the pattern? Physical abuse, possibly medical neglect to the point of serious harm. These children are exhibiting signs of complex trauma. They'll need extensive therapy. Marcus filed for divorce within a week. Victoria tried to fight it, tried to claim she was the victim, tried to spin a story about the children being liars and Marcus being unstable. But Marcus had the recording. He had the medical reports, and he had something else. Something he discovered when he reviewed the security footage from his home cameras, footage Victoria had thought she'd deleted. The cameras had caught everything. Victoria screaming at the children, dragging Emma by her hair when she cried, slapping Ethan across the face when he asked for food, locking them in their rooms for hours at a time, eating elaborate meals while the children sat at the empty table, watching. The footage was damning, undeniable. When Marcus's lawyer presented it to Victoria's lawyer, the fight went out of her. She signed the divorce papers without another word of protest. The judge granted Marcus a restraining order. Victoria was forbidden from coming within 500 feet of him or the children ever again. But the damage was done. The children were safe. But they weren't okay. Not yet. Emma stopped eating again, even with unlimited food available. She'd been conditioned to believe she didn't deserve to eat. Marcus had to sit with her at every meal, encouraging every bite, promising her it was okay, that no one would punish her. Ethan had nightmares every single night. He'd wake up screaming that Victoria was coming back, that she was going to lock them in the dark again, that Daddy was going away and never coming back. Marcus quit his job, sold his company. He didn't care about the money anymore. He had enough for 10 lifetimes. What he cared about was being there, being present, proving to his children that they mattered more than any business deal, any amount of money, anything else in the world. They moved. Marcus couldn't stand to live in the house where his children had suffered. They bought a smaller place, cozier, with a big kitchen where they cooked together every day, with a backyard where the twins could play and feel safe. Dr. Martinez came to their home twice a week. Slowly, painfully slowly, the children began to heal. 6 months after that day at the garbage, Emma smiled for the first time. Really smiled. They were making pancakes, and she got flour on her nose and she laughed. The sound made Marcus's heart soar. 1 year later, Ethan slept through the night without nightmares for the first time. Marcus cried when he checked on his son and found him peaceful, finally, after so many nights of terror. 2 years later, Emma told him she wanted to talk about her mom, the real one, Sarah. They spent an afternoon looking through photos, telling stories, laughing and crying together. "I'm glad Victoria's gone," Emma said. "But I'm also glad she happened." Marcus was shocked. "Why?" "Because it taught us something," Emma said with a wisdom beyond her 9 years. "It taught us that people who seem nice can be mean, and it taught us that you'll always protect us. Even when you make mistakes, you fix them. You're a good daddy." Marcus hugged his daughter and cried. Again, he seemed to cry a lot these days. But they were different tears now, not tears of horror or rage or regret, tears of gratitude that his children were alive, were healing, were his. 3 years after the garbage incident, Marcus met someone new, Rachel. She was a teacher at the twins' school. She was kind and patient and had no interest in his money. She fell in love with Emma and Ethan first, before she fell in love with him. And this time, Marcus took it slow, very slow. Rachel didn't move in, didn't push. She respected the children's trauma and their healing process. She earned their trust inch by a painful inch. When Emma finally hugged Rachel and said, "I like you," Marcus knew it was real. When Ethan asked if Rachel could come to his birthday party, Marcus knew they were ready. 4 years after the nightmare, Emma and Ethan were thriving. Emma was top of her class. Ethan was playing soccer. Both were in therapy still, but the sessions were monthly now instead of weekly. The nightmares were rare. The fear was fading. One evening, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed, she said, "Daddy, I need to tell you something." "What's that, sweetheart?" "I forgive you," she said simply. Marcus felt his throat close. "For what?" "For Victoria. For not knowing. For leaving us with her. I forgive you. I know you didn't know. I know you fixed it as soon as you found out. And I know you'll never let anyone hurt us again." Marcus couldn't speak. He just held his daughter and cried. Again, always crying. But these were the best tears of all, tears of redemption. 5 years later, Marcus and Rachel got married. Emma and Ethan stood with them at the altar. It was a small ceremony, just family, just the people who mattered. During the vows, Marcus added something that wasn't traditional. He turned to his children and made a promise. "Emma, Ethan, I vow to you that I will always choose you first. I will always protect you. I will always believe you. I will always be here. You are not burdens. You are not broken. You are my heart. You are my reason for everything. I failed you once. I will never fail you again." The twins were crying. Rachel was crying. Everyone was crying. It was perfect. 10 years after the garbage incident, Emma was 17. Ethan too. They were preparing for college. Both brilliant, both kind, both strong despite everything they'd endured. One day, Emma came home from school with an assignment. "Write about a moment that changed your life," she read from the paper. "I'm going to write about that day, the day you found us at the garbage." "Are you sure?" Marcus asked. That's a painful memory." "It is," Emma agreed. "But it's also important, because that day you saved us. Not just physically, you saved us emotionally. You chose us. You fought for us. You showed us what real love looks like." She wrote the essay. It was beautiful and heartbreaking and honest. Her teacher submitted it to a national competition. It won. Emma was asked to read it at a conference about child welfare and trauma. She stood on that stage, at 17 years old, and told her story. The whole story, the hunger, the fear, the garbage, the rescue, the healing. She talked about her father's choice to give up everything to put them first. She talked about the long road to recovery. She talked about forgiveness and hope. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium, including Marcus's. He stood in the back, Rachel beside him, Ethan on his other side, and cried. Proud tears this time. Grateful tears. Amazed tears. His daughter had survived. She'd more than survived. She'd become a voice for others who'd suffered. She'd transformed her pain into purpose. After the speech, a woman approached Marcus. She was probably in her 40s, well-dressed, nervous. "Mr. Wellington," she said, I need to thank you." "For what?" "I'm a stepmother," she said, "to 2 children. And sometimes I get frustrated with them, resentful. I think things I shouldn't think. But I never act on them, because 5 years ago I read about your case, about what Victoria did. It was in the news, and it terrified me, because I recognized some of my own thoughts in her actions. So I got help. I went to therapy. I learned to deal with my feelings in healthy ways. Your children's suffering saved mine from suffering. So thank you for speaking out, for not hiding what happened." Marcus shook her hand. "Thank you for getting help. Thank you for choosing to be different." The woman left. Marcus turned to Rachel. "I never thought anything good could come from that nightmare." "Good can come from anything," Rachel said. "If we let it, if we choose it." That's what you taught Emma and Ethan. Not that bad things won't happen, but that we can survive them. We can heal from them. We can grow from them. That night, Marcus sat with his twins, now almost adults. They talked about the past, not to dwell on it, but to acknowledge how far they'd come. "Do you ever think about Victoria?" Marcus asked. "Sometimes," Emma said. "I wonder if she ever got help, if she ever realized what she did was wrong." "I don't," Ethan said. "I don't care about her at all anymore. She's nothing to me, less than nothing." "That's healthy," Emma said. "She doesn't deserve our emotional energy." "Do you hate her?" Marcus asked. Emma thought about it. "No, I pity her." She could have had a family. She could have had love, but she chose cruelty instead. And now she has nothing, while we have everything. It was true. They did have everything. Not the money, though, that helped, but they had each other. They had trust. They had love. They had healing. 20 years after the garbage incident, Emma became a child psychologist. She specialized in trauma and abuse cases. She worked with children who'd been hurt by the people who were supposed to protect them. She was brilliant at her job because she understood. She'd been there. Ethan became a lawyer. Child advocacy law. He fought for children's rights in court. He made sure kids had voices. He made sure abusers were punished. He was relentless because he remembered. Marcus retired fully. He spent his time with Rachel, with his children, and eventually with his grandchildren. Emma's daughter, Ethan's son. Beautiful children who would never know hunger or fear or abuse because their parents had been through fire and emerged stronger. One day, 30 years after that horrible day at the garbage, Marcus received a letter. It was from a lawyer's office. Victoria had died. She'd been sick for a long time, alone with no one to care for her. Her will left everything to charity. There was a note attached, meant for Marcus. "Tell them I'm sorry," it said in shaky handwriting. "Tell them I was broken too. Tell them I didn't know how to be better. Tell them." The note ended there, unfinished, like her life, like her chance at redemption. Marcus showed the note to Emma and Ethan, now in their 30s, successful and happy and whole. "Do you want to go to the funeral?" Marcus asked. "Say goodbye?" Emma shook her head. "We said goodbye 30 years ago. When you found us, when you chose us. That was the end of Victoria's story for us. This is just paperwork." "Agreed," Ethan said. "She doesn't get any more of our time, not even for closure. We have closure. We have healing. We have each other." So they didn't go. They spent that day together instead, the three of them and Rachel and the grandchildren. They went to the park, had a picnic, laughed, played, loved. That evening, as the sun set, Emma turned to her father. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For finding us that day, for not driving past, for seeing us, for saving us." "You don't have to thank me for that," Marcus said. "You're my children, saving you, protecting you, loving you. That's not something you thank me for. That's just being your father." "But not all fathers do that," Emma said. "Not all fathers choose their children. Not all fathers fight. You did. You do. Every day. So thank you." Marcus hugged his daughter, then his son, then his wife, then his grandchildren, his family, his whole heart. And in that moment, he thought back to that day 30 years ago. The worst day of his life. The day he found his children searching garbage for food. The day his world shattered. The day he saw exactly what his choices had cost. But also, the day he made the choice to be better, to do better, to fight for what mattered most. That day had destroyed him, but it had also rebuilt him into the father, the protector, the advocate his children needed. And now, 30 years later, sitting in the park with his whole family around him, Marcus understood something profound. We are not defined by our worst moments, not by our failures, not by the times we miss the signs or make the wrong choices. We are defined by what we do next, by how we respond when we discover our mistakes, by whether we run toward the hard thing or away from it, by whether we choose love or fear, courage or comfort. That day at the garbage, Marcus had run toward the hard thing. He'd chosen love, he'd chosen courage, and it had saved his children's lives. But more than that, it had taught them how to live, how to survive, how to heal, how to become people who save others from the same darkness. And that, Marcus thought as he watched his family laugh in the fading sunlight, that was worth every painful moment, every tear, every nightmare, every difficult day of the long journey from that garbage to this grace. His children had been searching for food and garbage, but what they'd really been searching for was hope, was rescue, was love. And he'd given them all three, and they'd taken those gifts and multiplied them, turned them into careers and families and purpose, turned their trauma into triumph, their pain into power, their brokenness into beauty. "Daddy?" Emma's daughter, 5 years old, tugged on his sleeve. "Grandpa, tell us a story." "What kind of story?" Marcus asked. A story about when Mommy was little. Marcus looked at Emma. She nodded. Tell them the true one, she said softly. So Marcus did. He told them about the day he found their mommy and uncle searching for food. He told them about how scared they were, how brave they were, how strong they were. He told them about the long road to healing. He told them about choosing love over everything else. The children listened with wide eyes. When he finished, Emma's daughter said, "Grandpa, you're a hero." Marcus shook his head. No, sweetheart, your mommy and uncle are the heroes. They survived. They healed. They chose to be kind even after someone was cruel to them. That's real heroism. You're all heroes, the little girl decided. And maybe she was right. As darkness fell and they packed up their picnic, Marcus took one last look around the park at his family, his beautiful, imperfect, healing, thriving family. They'd come so far from that garbage, so impossibly far. And they'd never go back. Not to the hunger, not to the fear, not to the darkness. They were safe now. They were loved. They were home. And that was everything. The next morning, Marcus woke up early as he always did. He made coffee and sat on the porch watching the sunrise. These quiet moments were sacred to him now. Time to think, time to remember, time to be grateful. Rachel joined him, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders against the morning chill. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That day," Marcus said. "I think about it every day, you know. Every single day for 30 years. Does it still hurt?" "Yes, but differently now. It hurts like a scar hurts. You can feel it, you know it's there, but it's healed. It's part of you, but it doesn't control you." "They're doing so well," Rachel said. "Emma and Ethan, you did that." "We did that," Marcus corrected. "You helped raise them too. You loved them when they were broken. That takes a special kind of strength." "They weren't broken," Rachel said firmly. "They were hurt. There's a difference. Broken things can't be fixed. Hurt things can heal. And they did." Marcus squeezed her hand. She was right. His children had never been broken. Damaged, yes. Traumatized, absolutely. But never broken. Their spirits had bent, but never shattered. Their hearts had cracked, but never split completely. They'd held on through the darkness, waiting for the light. And when the light came, they'd run toward it. Later that day, Marcus received a phone call. It was from a journalist working on a documentary about child abuse and recovery. They'd read Emma's essay from years ago and wanted to interview the family. "I don't know," Marcus said to Emma when he told her about it. "It's your story, your choice." Emma thought about it. "Will it help other kids?" she asked. The journalist says yes. They want to show that recovery is possible, that children can survive and thrive after abuse. "Then let's do it," Emma said. Ethan agreed. The documentary took 6 months to film. It was exhausting and emotional and painful. They revisited the old house where it had happened. Emma and Ethan walked through those rooms, remembering the pantry with the lock, the refrigerator with the key, the stairs where they'd hidden when Victoria was angry. "This is where I spilled the juice," Ethan said, pointing to the white couch, now covered in plastic and gathering dust. The house had never sold. No one wanted to live in a place where such horrors had occurred. "This is where she cut my hair," Emma said, touching the back of her head. "She said I looked too pretty and it wasn't fair, so she took scissors and just started cutting. It was so uneven that Dad had to take me to get it all cut short." Marcus remembered that day. Seeing his daughter's beautiful long hair ruined, the stylist had cried while trying to fix it. Emma had been stoic through the whole thing, like she'd learned not to show emotion anymore. "Do you still feel her presence here?" the journalist asked. "No," Emma said firmly. "She's gone. She's been gone for 30 years. This is just a house. Just walls and floors. It has no power over us anymore." The documentary premiered at a film festival and won multiple awards. It was picked up by a major streaming service. Millions of people watched the Wellington family's story, watched Marcus break down as he described finding his children in that garbage, watched Emma and Ethan describe their suffering with calm, clinical detachment that made it even more heartbreaking, watched their journey from victims to survivors to advocates. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of messages poured in, from survivors sharing their own stories, from parents thanking Marcus for showing what real protection looks like. from stepparents who'd seen themselves in Victoria's early resentments and had gotten help before crossing the line. But the message that affected Marcus most came from a 7-year-old girl. Her mother read it to her to write to him. "Dear Mr. Wellington," it said in a child's careful handwriting. "Thank you for saving your kids. My stepdad was being mean to me. My mom didn't believe me, but then she saw your movie, and she believed me. And now he's gone, and we're safe. You saved me too." Marcus framed that letter, hung it in his office, because that was the point of all of it, wasn't it? Not just saving his own children, but helping save others, turning their nightmare into a beacon for people still lost in the dark. Emma's practice grew. She became one of the leading experts on childhood trauma recovery. She wrote books, gave lectures, trained other therapists, and every single patient who walked through her door was treated with the same fierce protection and unconditional belief that her father had shown her. Ethan's law practice became legendary. He never lost a case where a child's welfare was at stake. He was relentless, brilliant, and utterly uncompromising when it came to protecting children. Opposing lawyers learned to settle, rather than face him in court. Because Ethan didn't just win cases. He destroyed child abusers legally, systematically, completely. "You've become quite the avenging angels," Marcus said to them one day. They were all together for Sunday dinner, a tradition that had never stopped in 30 years. "We learned from the best," Emma said, raising her glass to her father. "I'm not an avenging angel," Marcus protested. "I'm just a dad who loves his kids." "That's exactly what makes you an avenging angel," Ethan said. "You showed us that love isn't passive. Love fights. Love protects. Love shows up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." The years continued to pass. Marcus grew older. His hair turned white. His steps became slower, but his love never dimmed, not for 1 second. When he was 75 years old, Marcus had a heart attack. Emma and Ethan rushed to the hospital, terrified. They'd already lost their mother. They couldn't lose their father too. But Marcus survived, weak and tired, but alive. As he lay in that hospital bed, tubes and monitors everywhere, Emma held one hand and Ethan held the other. "Don't you dare leave us," Emma said, crying. "We still need you." "You don't need me anymore," Marcus said softly. "You haven't for years. You're strong, you're whole, you're amazing." "That doesn't mean we don't need you," Ethan said. "You're our dad. We'll always need you." Marcus smiled. "I'm not going anywhere yet. I have grandchildren to spoil, great-grandchildren to meet someday, more stories to tell." He kept that promise. He recovered, slower this time, older this time, but he recovered, and he got to meet his great-grandchildren. Emma's daughter had twin boys, the circle of life continuing. On Marcus's 80th birthday, the family threw him a massive party. Friends, colleagues, all the children they'd helped over the years, now grown. The house was packed with people whose lives had been touched by the Wellington family's story. Emma stood up to make a toast. 35 years ago, she said, "my father found me and my brother searching through garbage for food. We were starving. We were terrified. We were broken, or so we thought." She paused, looking at her father with so much love it was almost painful to witness. "But we weren't broken. We were just waiting for someone to see us, to save us, to love us enough to fight for us. And that day, that terrible, horrible, life-changing day, that's what happened. My father saw us. He saved us, and he's been fighting for us ever since." Emma raised her glass. "To Marcus Wellington, the man who taught us that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice, a daily choice to show up, to protect, to believe, to fight. Happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for choosing us. Every single day for 35 years, thank you for choosing us." Everyone raised their glasses. Marcus was crying again. He'd never stopped crying at moments like this. Rachel leaned over and whispered, "You've lived a good life, Marcus Wellington." "The best life," Marcus agreed. That night, after everyone had gone home, after the house was quiet, Marcus sat in his favorite chair. Emma and Ethan, now in their 40s, but still his babies, sat on the floor at his feet like they used to do when they were young. "Tell us the story, Dad," Emma said. "The whole story, from your perspective." So Marcus did. He told them about the Singapore deal, About the phone calls Victoria had intercepted. About the moment he saw them at that garbage and his whole world stopped. About the rage and the guilt and the terror. About the recording and the security footage and the divorce. About the years of therapy and healing. About meeting Rachel. About watching them grow into the incredible people they'd become. "I failed you," he said at the end. "I left you with her. I didn't see what she was. I didn't protect you." "Dad," Ethan said gently. "You couldn't have known." "I should have known. A better father would have known." "A better father would have ignored us when he found us," Emma said. "Would have been embarrassed, would have blamed us, would have chosen his new wife over his children. You didn't do any of that. You saw us. You believed us. You fought for us. You were the best father we could have had. Because you weren't perfect, Dad. You made mistakes, but you fixed them, and that's what matters." Marcus looked at his children, his beautiful, strong, compassionate children. They'd survived hell, and they'd come out the other side not hardened but softened, not broken but whole, not hateful but loving. "I'm proud of you," he said. "Every day I'm proud of you." "We know," they said together. "We've always known." As the night grew late, Emma and Ethan prepared to leave. They both had families waiting at home, but they lingered at the door, as if reluctant to go. "Dad," Emma said, "do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't come home early that day?" Marcus had wondered, many times, usually at 3 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come. "Yes," he admitted. "I don't," Emma said, "because you would have come home eventually, and you would have seen, and you would have saved us. Maybe it would have been 1 day later, or 2 days, or 3, but you would have come. You always come for us." "Always," Marcus promised. "Even now, even when you're 40 years old and don't need me anymore. If you called, I'd come." "We know," Ethan said. "That's why we don't worry anymore. We know we're safe. We've always been safe with you." After they left, Rachel found Marcus still sitting in his chair, staring into space. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That nothing gold can stay," Marcus quoted. "That's a poem, right? Frost?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because this, right now, this is golden. My children are happy and healthy and safe. My grandchildren are thriving. I have you. I have this life, and I know it can't last forever. I'm 80 years old. Time is running out." "But you made the most of your time," Rachel said. "You didn't waste a single day after you found them. You showed up for them. You loved them. You protected them. When your time comes, Marcus, you'll have no regrets." "Won't I?" Marcus asked. "I'll regret every second I'm not with them. Every graduation I miss, every wedding, every grandchild's first word." "Then live as long as you can," Rachel said simply. "Fight for every day, because they need you. Not the way they did when they were 7, but they still need you." So Marcus did. He fought for every day. He took his medications, did his physical therapy, ate healthy, exercised, not for himself, but for Emma and Ethan and all the children and grandchildren who still needed him. He lived to be 90 years old, 45 years after finding his children at that garbage, long enough to see Emma's twins graduate from college, long enough to walk Emma's daughter down the aisle at her wedding, long enough to hold his first great-great-grandchild, a tiny baby girl named Sarah, after the grandmother she'd never meet. When Marcus finally passed, peacefully in his sleep with Rachel beside him, the funeral was massive. Hundreds of people came to pay respects. Children he'd helped, now adults. Families he'd saved through Emma and Ethan's work. Colleagues. Friends. The community he'd built through love and service. But the eulogy was given by Emma and Ethan together. They stood at the podium, middle-aged, now but still looking like those scared 7-year-olds when you knew what to look for. "Our father saved our lives," Emma began. "That's not metaphorical or exaggerated. He literally saved our lives. He found us searching garbage for food. He took us away from someone who was hurting us. He fought for us when we couldn't fight for ourselves. But more than that," Ethan continued, "he taught us how to live. Not just survive, but truly live. With purpose, with compassion, with courage, with love." Emma wiped her eyes. "He taught us that mistakes can be redeemed, that failure isn't final, that love is always worth fighting for. He taught us that children matter," Ethan said, "that they're not possessions or burdens or inconveniences. They're people, precious people who deserve protection, and belief and unconditional love. He taught us to be brave, Emma said, to face hard things, to speak our truth even when it's scary, to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. He taught us to be kind, Ethan added, even to people who hurt us, even when kindness isn't deserved, because kindness is a choice, and choosing kindness makes us better. They spoke for 20 minutes, sharing stories, memories, lessons. The crowd laughed and cried and nodded in recognition. At the end, Emma said, "Our father's legacy isn't his money or his success or even his incredible children," though he'd argue with me on that last part. "His legacy," Ethan said, "is love. Active, fighting, showing up love. Love that doesn't quit when things get hard. Love that protects. Love that believes. Love that saves." And because of his love, Emma finished, "Hundreds of children are safe tonight. Hundreds of families are whole. Hundreds of people know that someone sees them, believes them, fights for them. That's what he gave us," they said together. "And that's what we'll keep giving to others, because that's what he taught us. Love multiplies. Love saves. Love wins." The funeral ended. People filed past the casket, paying their respects. Emma and Ethan stood together, hands clasped, watching. "We're orphans now," Ethan said quietly. "No," Emma corrected. "We're not orphans. We're his children, forever. That doesn't end because he's gone. Everything he taught us, everything he gave us, that lives on." "You're right," Ethan said. He looked at his sister. "We're going to be okay." "We are," Emma agreed. "Because he made sure we would be. That was his gift. Not just saving us then, but preparing us for a life without him." They stood there a long time, saying goodbye to the man who'd given them everything, who'd found them in their darkest moment and carried them to the light, who'd loved them with a fierceness that transformed them from victims into victors, from survivors into saviors. Marcus Wellington had been many things: businessman, husband, friend. But his greatest role, the one he'd fought hardest for, the one he'd never stopped perfecting, was father. And in that role, he'd been perfect. Not because he never made mistakes, but because he never stopped trying to make things right. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She went to her father's study, the one place that still smelled like him. She sat in his chair, running her hands over the worn leather armrests. On the desk was a notebook, his journal. She'd never read it before, had respected his privacy, but now she opened it, desperate to hear his voice one more time. The last entry was dated 3 days before he died. "I am content," it read in his shaky handwriting. "I have lived a good life. Not a perfect life, but a good one. I made terrible mistakes. I trusted the wrong person. I almost lost everything that mattered, but I fixed it. God help me, I fixed it. And my children are safe. They're more than safe. They're thriving. They're making the world better. That's all a father can ask for, that his children outlive him, that they flourish, that they take the love he gave them and multiply it, spreading it to others who need it." Emma and Ethan were hurt so badly, but they healed. They chose to heal, and I was privileged to walk that road with them. I got to watch them transform from scared, starving children into powerful, compassionate adults. I got to see them take their pain and turn it into purpose. If I could go back and change that day, would I? Would I want them never to have suffered? Of course. What father wouldn't? But I can't change it. It happened. Victoria happened. The abuse happened. But so did the recovery. So did the love. So did the fighting, and the healing, and the triumph. And maybe, just maybe, the world is better because they suffered and survived. Because they know what it feels like to be helpless, they fight for the helpless. Because they know what it's like to be hungry, they feed the hungry. Because they know what it's like to be unseen, they see people. So I'm content. My children are safe. My grandchildren are loved. My great-grandchildren will grow up in a world where Emma and Ethan are fighting for them. And that's everything. That's the whole point of a life. To love people so well that they become love themselves, spreading it everywhere they go. I'm not afraid to die. I'm only sad to leave them. But they don't need me anymore. Not like they did. They have each other. They have their families. They have the strength I helped them find. My last thought before I sleep each night is the same. Thank God I came home early that day. Thank God I saw them. Thank God I chose them. Because choosing them was choosing life. Choosing them was choosing love. Choosing them was choosing everything that matters. If I have any wisdom to leave behind, it's this. Choose your children every single day. Choose them. Fight for them. Believe them. Protect them. Love them. They are worth more than money, more than success, more than anything else in this world. And if you fail them, if you make mistakes, fix it. Apologize. Change. Fight harder. Don't give up. Because children are resilient if they're loved. They can survive almost anything if they know someone is fighting for them. I'm so proud of Emma and Ethan. Not because they're successful or smart or accomplished, though they're all those things. I'm proud because they're kind. Because they love fiercely. Because they fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Because they took the worst thing that ever happened to them and turned it into the best thing about them. That's my legacy. Not my money. Not my business. Them. And everyone they save. And everyone those people save. Love multiplying infinitely, spreading out like ripples from a stone thrown in water. I am content. I am at peace. I am grateful. And I am above all else so deeply, profoundly glad that I found my children searching that garbage. Because finding them was finding myself. Finding them was finding purpose. Finding them was finding everything. The journal entry ended there. Emma sat holding the notebook, tears streaming down her face, her father's last words to her, even though he hadn't known they'd be his last. She called Ethan. It was 2 a.m., but he answered on the first ring. Can't sleep either? He asked. I found Dad's journal, Emma said. His last entry. I need to read it to you. So she did. She read their father's final words, his final lesson, his final expression of love. When she finished, Ethan was crying too. He was right, Ethan said. About all of it. We are his legacy, and we're going to make sure that legacy keeps spreading. Until every child is safe, Emma agreed. Until every child is believed. Until every child knows they're worth fighting for. That's what he'd want, they said together. And so the Wellington family legacy continued. Emma's practice grew into a nationwide network of trauma-informed therapists. Ethan's law firm became a model for child advocacy. The documentary won an Oscar and sparked nationwide reform in child protection services.